Okay. And good afternoon. You are watching Golden Road Television. I'm your host, Michael DiMartino, and I'm really happy and honored to get a little bit of time with a gentleman who's been very busy lately. But nonetheless, his roots and his work goes back for decades. I'm sure you've heard of the Green Festival, but I'm talking not live right now on the air through Skype with Lou CasaBianca from the Resilient City Academy. So welcome.
Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure to see you.
Well, I have to say, you've the few times that we've spent together has been extremely enlightening, and it's actually, along with the show, given us a little more traction to bring content to our community that's very pertinent, especially at a time right now with the fires and the various things happening around the world. So, just to give us the viewers a little bit of a profile, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and some of your history with Green Festival and the Resilient City Academy?
Sure. I mean, basically, I come from a broadcast journalism background, and my interest in professional work has been in the area of writing books, being a speaker at events, founding magazines, and doing a long-term consulting with companies like Disney and Sony on setting up their digital strategy and looking at future technologies. And about 6 years ago, I really decided to focus on the nonprofit space and take that knowledge from the commercial world and bring it into and supporting groups like Green Festival and Sierra Club and others in being able to use these technologies to communicate better with their membership and to use them for PR and to develop courses and content. And in the process, I started doing first responder. I first became a first responder myself and got certified. And then I've been teaching and training and working with people and bringing them the skills by city or by individual or by age group to handle the ongoing effects of climate change. And unfortunately, what we're seeing in Napa and Sonoma and Santa Rosa, et cetera, is the result of very specifically of climate change and flooding in Florida and hurricanes. And I mean, it's all happening simultaneously. I've been working with Dr. Kevin Donaher, who's the co-founder of Global Exchange, which is a 24-year-old entity that's been doing a lot of work in the field of social responsibility tourism, where 10, 12, 15, 20 doctors or scientists or teachers will go to a place like Pakistan or Venezuela or Bangladesh and bring their skills to the people in that city or country. And it was Global Exchange that spun out the entity that became Green Festival. And Green Festival is at this point about to retire. The last series of shows have been done after a 14-year stint. And we're creating something called the Resilient Cities Expo that includes resilient city solutions, community background in first resilience training, and the reality of what's called the Chief Resilient Officer, the CRO, the person who's more or less like the flight deck commander working with the mayor of the city, looking at everything from water, fire, and safety to education, poverty, and food supplies, and making sure that someone is working on the preparedness piece so that when the inevitable happens, whether it's flood, hurricane, or fires, that the city and the population are prepared, the schools, the hospitals, et cetera.
And I have to say that the timing too is so pertinent. Golden Road TV and radio show, we just celebrated our 1 year anniversary in August, and we've been doing a lot of community building, bridge building with people between local government, media, radio stations like KVMR, KZFR, KUBU in Sacramento. and also broadcasting on the local cable stations, but also working a lot with the local indigenous communities, from the Winnemem people up in Mount Shasta to here locally, the Maidu and the Nisenan. But what really struck me is, we've been kind of building these bridges going where, what could I say, is where the energy is. And recently I had an opportunity to meet you, which really illuminated me as far as, we're building these resources, we're building these bridges, but where is it all going besides just the pure nature of creating conscious and educational content? What do we do with this? So upon our meeting and seeing what you've been doing, not only with Green Festival, but with this Resilient City Academy and this whole movement, it's incredible how now we're in collaboration, we're starting to weave these things together, because again, we can see whether it was Puerto Rico with the hurricane or Houston, or like you said, the fires here, that this is an issue that it really can't wait anymore. It's not like just looking at future preparedness. It's really dealing in the moment. So that's what really struck me about you, not just the technological aspect of you're very on par with the current technology, but also the vision of how you're using this technology to educate
Right.
people. And it's really kind of given me just a whole resurgence in the last year of effort, and how we could kind of help direct the media from the show to help support a very noble and very pertinent cause.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. And likewise, with you. I've had the opportunity over the last 4 years to visit virtually every first responder office in the Bay Area, from San Francisco down to Santa Cruz, Gilroy, Redwood City, San Mateo, Los Gatos, Cupertino, up through the East Bay. And the timing of going to the North Bay, which, starting with Vallejo, Fairfield, et cetera, is exactly the moment in time when we connected. So again, it's some serious synchronicity happening.
Definitely.
The point and the goal is to get all of the first responder offices in those cities fully networked, and that was part of what I was doing. So there is a network called Cadre, which is looking at being able to share information among the first responder offices. Now, some of them, like Cupertino, is a building. They've got trucks and they've got a staff and a serious budget. Others, and I won't name them, but are basically a desk and a chair with a answering machine. And there's no full-time staff, and usually a firefighter is part-time handling that position. But with the projections for the Bay, one of the biggest problems is this combination now of sea level rise, with the Bay going up
Right.
1 foot, 2 foot, 3, 5 feet over the next 5, 10, 20 years. And, we've done the maps and have the video of Fisherman's Wharf being underwater, and, lots of, where the ferry building is, that's going to be underwater. I mean, it's very serious. And unfortunately, people don't realize it, but Sacramento is the most endangered city in this state because of the combination of the Bay coming in on one side and the levees breaking on the other.
Which, of course, we just had Oroville Dam, potential dam failure recently, and they're talking about the new Bear Creek Dam. So, and I think what's interesting too, and this is part of, I know, my inspiration to do the show and all the work and time and effort that goes in, is that we're seeing that as well as the system works in some areas, that it's greatly deficient. And when I think part of what you're doing too is we really need everybody on board. It's not like we can count on local government, city, state, federal government anymore to cure all of these problems. And even still the potential of millions of people in Puerto Rico right now, which is obviously part of the United States, still not having water, electricity, the catastrophe, even the remnants of what happened with New Orleans and what's happening right now in Houston, and with the wildfires, that it really is going to take people to become educated and step up as individuals, as part of their community to help.
That's the premise.
Yeah.
That's the premise. That's why we're inventing this category of first survivor and first resilience, that you can't count on the city, the county, the state, or the country to bail you out. You have to have a plan locally, starting out with yourself as an individual. If it's just you and your partner in life, male, female, couple, whatever, then that. And if it's a family, then the kids need to be, brought into it and understand how to shut the gas off, for example. One of the biggest causes of injury in an earthquake is the house being knocked off the foundation, the pipes being broken, and no one is aware of the skill set to shut the gas off before there's so much gas that the place blows up. Someone goes down with a lighter to find what they're doing, and they accidentally blow the house up. So the solution is like a 50-cent wrench on a bungee cord next to the valve, and you turn it 2 revolutions, righty tighty, loosey goosey, and you shut it off. And so literally a 6 or a 7-year-old kid who's been trained to do that can do that. So that's a simple example of first survivor skills rather than waiting for somebody from PG&E or first responder to be there to shut it off when it's too late.
Right.
And the other piece of this that we're bringing a lot of innovation to is there's 2 words here. First of all, the idea of emergency and catastrophic disaster, all those words are unnecessarily doomsday and negative. So we don't use those terms in the baseline. In other words, those things might happen, such as the fires right now in the North Bay. But the real value is being resilient, as well as being able to tap into resilience. And the way I'll differentiate those is the resilient is the personal part of it. So we're training people to understand that their state of being, their consciousness during a catastrophic event is going to depend a lot on what preparation they've done before the event. Right. So if you're prepared and you have a plan and you know where there's going to be food, water, vitamins, batteries, etc., and you know where to meet your children or your partner, case may be, and you've actually rehearsed it, and you have what's called in this world the go bag with the basic food, water, vitamins, etc., flashlight, etc.
I mean, it's the things they talk about every evening on Coast to Coast. I know that George Norrie's been talking a lot about the possible magnetic pulse, solar flare. If the electric grid goes down, what will people do?
Right. That's another piece of it, and that's kind of the worst case scenario. But going back to the baseline of, and just stay with me for a second on this differentiation because it's important. What those people, George Norrie and most EMTs are talking about is this whole, it's a catastrophic event, it's an emergency. Oh no, my God, we've got to be prepared. That's true, and that's one mindset. But it's really important, and there's a whole movement in psychology today that's called human beings being resilient, being able to get hit with something they don't expect emotionally and come back, rather than being taken out by it. So kids running around screaming because the building is shaking, and after the shaking, crying and sitting in a corner doesn't help anybody.
Right.
If they've been prepared and they know what it's like, they go through it as an observer, and their state of being is very different at the end of the process. That's the resilient part of it.
Which deals with not just the material aspect, but also the emotional, the traumatic.
The human, psychological, emotional intelligence.
The whole human condition,
It's not being put into the formula right now.
Right.
And having done this for enough years and putting enough people through training where we've got a 30-foot, building on fire, and they've got to put it out, with a hose and fire extinguisher, people's real energy shows up. And after putting enough people, as young as 12 and as old as 91 years old, I've learned that the amount of preparation they have beforehand, reading, video, PowerPoint, simulation, makes a huge difference when they're actually confronted with it. And it's kind of like there's something called mirror neurons where they remember this in their subconscious. And now they can watch themselves and be much more engaged rather than being driven by fear and the unknown. So that's an important piece to distinguish from the resilient part, which is understanding, for example, if there's a frying pan in the kitchen and there's an oil fire, the old wives' tale is, throw some breadcrumbs or some flour on it, and that's not it at all. That becomes an explosive, and the whole thing can blow up in your face. So the answer is putting a cover on it and smothering it so it doesn't get oxygen, again, which anybody can do if they know the difference.
Well, so I will say this, not to Not to
part of it.
interrupt, but speaking of fires, I'm broadcasting live here from KVMR studios. And of course, there's a lot happening here with the fires. So supposedly, technology being what it is, they're having some difficulties in the production studio. So they're going to need to come in here in just a few minutes and use some of the computers and the full bandwidth. But
Sure.
we're really just scratching the surface. And tonight was kind of our first Skype
Test. Sure.
rendezvous and kind of testing and starting to communicate. But obviously, you're a wealth of knowledge. You've been doing this for decades. And now it's something that's extremely pertinent. It's not like something we can put to a back burner anymore. So, as busy as you are, I really appreciate this time that we got to talk. I also want to thank my technical director who's here, Jim Heck, who makes sure everything is working for me. And I appreciate your time. And we'll definitely be doing more talking. Lots of exciting things coming up in November with some public events. I know that we're going to be Skyping you in for those. Also talking about some actually land-based potential projects that people can get involved in, and how they can bring their knowledge or their resource to the table to help build this resource directory, which again I know you've been working on for a long time, creating some very advanced prototypes and software. So on that, we'll wrap up our discussion tonight. But would you like to leave us with a little short tidbit before we go?
Well, I just want to add on the piece of thinking of this both holistically and holographically. In a holistic sense, in terms of integrating the community, both in terms of moms, dads, kids, teachers, school district, and the city administration. I mean, that is if you will, the ecosystem that needs to be involved for this to be successful in any community. And I look forward to meeting Dr. Kevin Donaher, who's been my collaborator in a lot of this work we've done, projects in Oakland, city of San Francisco, Gilroy, most of the South Bay, Santa Cruz, and working in several cities in Australia now in terms of looking at the whole Pacific Rim as a starting point.
Right.
And the Art Deco theaters in the cities that we're talking about, we see as an untapped resource to bring these communities together with the library. So the library's got the research, usually a better internet, and access to meeting spaces for the kids or for the business community or for homeschoolers. There's a lot of communities that need this information. The seniors as well. It's a very important constituency where they've got a lot of experience, and rather than being thought of as being incidental, they can actually be a primary supporter of solving these issues when they come up in a community.
It takes a village, right?
Exactly.
So if people are interested in, and I know we're just beginning to roll out our collaboration, you've been doing this for a long time. If people would like to get more information or be in touch, how could they do that and communicate with you?
Well, go to the website would probably be the best approach. It's, Resilient Solutions, ResilientCitySolutions.com. And we'll have downloadable PDFs and videos and other material for them to check into there.
Brilliant. All right, well, we'll be talking again soon, and I want to again thank Jim Heck, my technical director, and thank KVMR for the bandwidth to be able to do this Skype interview with you. And again, much appreciation and respect for all the things that you're doing, and just looking forward to getting a little deeper into our collaboration, and looking forward to some of these events in November. So again, thank you so much for your time.
And I would like to suggest doing the next one this way with Kevin online, because he would be the host for the Quincy segment in terms of representing what we're doing there, or the guest speaker, as the case. And I think also potentially the both of us, if it's technically feasible, participating in each one of the cities and using the three. It's Nevada City, Shasta, and Chico.
Yep.
So we can start there and think of Quincy as a starting point.
Brilliant. Well, again, I'm glad that Mr. John Miner of Art Rock Ensemble brought us together, and we'll be talking very soon. Let's send out prayers to all the people suffering from these fires. But like you said, it is catastrophic in a way, but it's catastrophic because we've ignored the reality for so long that now it's kind of burning up, blowing up in
Yeah,
our face,
yeah.
and
I
flooding.
mean,
And
it's the wild card with nature where we had, uh, so much rain last year that it repopulated what is basically kindling, and as opposed to the indigenous people who have the wisdom to do controlled burn, that was never done,
right,
and people didn't clear enough space around their homes. This is the idea of
yeah,
preparedness.
yeah. Well,
And unfortunately, a lot of people, when they were called and told, get out of there, didn't believe it, and they stayed. And
yeah,
the wind wasn't working with them this time. It's really unfortunate. I mean, it's over 4,000 homes now, and it's going on 40 people and 400 people missing. So this is very serious. I mean, this is the worst fires in the history of California.
history of California, right? And that's why, again, independent media is so important because trying to reach people and being the voice of the community. So again, Mr. Lou CasaBianca, thank you so much for your time, and
Thank you,
we'll
Mr.
be
Michael
all
DiMartino. I
right.
appreciate
And
this.
I love the dolphin picture, so I appreciate.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I really believe they've got a corner on intelligence and spirituality that human beings need to learn from. So
Yeah,
both,
they see the
dolphin
whole hologram. Yeah, they do.
the cetacean. Yeah.
All right, thank you so
All right,
much.
Chief.
Bye
Pleasure
bye.
seeing. Can you send me a copy of this? I'd like to see what we did, so I have a starting point in reference.
I'll send it right over.
All right, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is this it for now? Are you done for the day, or how do
I'm
you
gonna call.
handle it?
I'm gonna call you once I get packed up and Jim's on his way.
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
I'll see you then. Peace.
Peace.